plug in everywhere that the term Torah is used in Galatians, does it really make sense to say that it's the oral Torah? I mean, particularly when you look at Galatians chapter 4 and when you look at what Paul says in Romans and other places. And it just doesn't add up. Here, I think we have to see it. Again, Paul's not speaking against the Torah. What he's speaking of is an abuse of the Torah, of thinking that it can be used as a vehicle for salvation and that it can be used as something to place one person over that of another. If you are led by the Spirit, you are not under the Torah. You're not under the condemnation of the Torah. The Spirit of God is never going to lead you to sin. And then he's going to say, now the deeds of the flesh, the deeds of human will, the deeds of human volition are evident. They're apparent, in other words, which are sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, avodah zarah, sorcery, the term there is pharmakia, enmities, strife, jealousy, outbursts of anger, disputes, dissensions, factions, envying, drunkenness, carousing, and things like these. In other words, this is not an exhaustive list. There are other things that could fall in this as well. Paul says things such as these. And Paul gives this whole litany of things that are a result of walking in the flesh. And I guess I could spend a lot of time and maybe try to break down what each one of these are, but the reality is they all really go back to one issue: whether or not a person is walking in the Spirit. They really go back to one issue. Now, something that's important to point out, I remember when I first got saved, when I first came to faith, I called my dad. I said, Dad, I need to tell you about something. I got saved, man. I committed my life to the Lord Yeshua. I used the term Jesus, but he said, that's awesome. So I thought you did that when you were a kid, son. I said, well, Dad, honestly, it wasn't the real thing. This is it. And I've given my life to the Lord. The Lord's changed my heart. And he says, okay, son, well, I'm just going to tell you that you're entering into a battle. Because there's going to be, throughout the remainder of your life, there's going to be this battle between this desire to do wrong, to do evil, and then to do what you're supposed to do. And I never knew what he was really talking about that, but he was really giving me a summary of Galatians 5:18 and 19, right there in a nutshell.